This is Narendra Kumar, and now we're in the next video of this first chapter, Imperialism and Colonialism, in our great book series of History of Civilization, Part 2 by Arjun Dev sir. We continue. Up to about the middle of the 19th century, this slave trade continued. Millions of Africans were uprooted from their homes. Many were killed while resisting the raids on their villages by the traders. They were taken in ships as inanimate objects and in such unhygienic conditions that the sailors on the ships, as inanimate objects, and in such unhygienic conditions that the sailors on the ships often revolted. Lakhs of them died during the long journey. It is estimated that not even half of the slaves captured reached America alive. The inhuman conditions under which they were forced to work on the plantations cannot even be imagined today. Extreme brutalities were inflicted on those who tried to escape. The person who killed a runaway slave was given a reward by the government. Slavery had become an integral part of the colonial system established by European countries during this period. By early 19th century, by early 19th century, 1800s, trade in slaves lost its importance in the system of colonial expansion, exploitation. Slavery was also a hindrance if the interior of Africa was to be opened to colonial exploitation. In fact, some colonial powers used the pretext of abolishing slave trade to go to war against African chiefs and kings to expand their territorial possessions. In the meantime, exploration of the interior of Africa had begun, and preparations made by the European powers to impose another kind of slavery on the continent of Africa for the direct conquest of almost entire Africa. Next subheading is Scramble for Africa. The interior of Africa was almost unknown to the Europeans. The interior of Africa was almost unknown to the Europeans up to about the middle of the 19th century. The coastal regions were largely in the hands of the old trading nations, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the English, and the French. They had set up their forts there. There were only two places where the European rule extended deep into the interior. In the north, the French had conquered Algeria. In the south, the English had occupied Cape Colony to safeguard their commerce with India. It had earlier been a Dutch colony where a number of Europeans, mainly the Dutch, had settled. These settlers, known as Boers, Boers, had taken to farming. This was the only part of Africa where a large number of Europeans were settled. Right? Within a few years, however, a scramble for colonies began, and almost the entire continent had been cut up and divided among European powers. Explorers, traders, and missionaries played their respective roles in the conquest of Africa. The explorers aroused the Europeans' interest in Africa. The missionaries saw the continent as a place for spreading the message of Christianity. The interest created by explorers and missionaries was soon used by the traders. Western governments supported all these interests by sending troops, and the stage was set for conquest. Even though the European powers met with stiff resistance from the Africans, and it took them a long time to establish effective occupation of their colonies, the speed with which the European powers conquered Africa is without a parallel. It is necessary to understand the reasons for this. The external factors have been broadly mentioned in an earlier section of this chapter. The economic might of the imperialist powers was much greater than the economic resources of the African states. The latter did not have the resources to fight a long war. In terms of military strength, the imperialist countries were obviously, far more powerful than the African states. The Africans had outdated firearms which had been sold to them by the Europeans. They were no match for the new rifles and guns which the Europeans used. The couplet of an English poet is often quoted to bring out this superiority. Whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun, and they have not. This is the couplet. The Maxim gun was a fast firing new gun which was used against the Africans who often fought with axes and knives, politically like in Indian states in the 18th century. The African states were not united. There were conflicts between states and within states, and the rulers and chiefs often sought the support of the Europeans against their rivals. So they were also power scrambles. As a result of these conflicts, the boundaries of the African states were often changing. As against this, the imperialist countries participating in the scramble for Africa were united. The scramble had created serious rivalries among them. In fact, the scramble to grab the maximum of African territory in the shortest possible time was the result of these rivalries. Many a time during the scramble wars between these countries were imminent. But in every case, war was avoided and agreements reached between them as to who will get which part of Africa. So they were more smarter. For example, the Anglo-German rivalries in East Africa were resolved in 1890 when Germany agreed to concede Uganda to Britain in exchange for Britain giving away Heligoland to Germany in 1845 to 85. There was a congress in Berlin where a group of European states met and discussed how to share out Africa among themselves. No African state, no African state was represented by this congress. Treaties were signed between European powers to settle disputes over claims to African territories between themselves. Treaties are also signed between African rulers and chiefs and the representatives of European governments or European companies and individuals, which were later sanctioned by the respective governments. These treaties are often fraudulent and bogus. In the cases where these were genuine, they were misrepresented in negotiations with other European countries, and the wrong interpretations put on them were recognized by other European powers. For example, if an African ruler For example, if an African ruler signed a treaty with a European country, signed a treaty with the European country to seek the latter's support against a rival, the European country, in seeking approval of the other European countries, interpreted it to mean that the African ruler had agreed to make his state a protectorate of that European country. This interpretation was then accepted by other European powers, and the process of occupation began without any hindrance from them. In this way, the partition of Africa was nearly completed by the end of the 19th century. The position is generally referred to as paper partition, as the actual partition took much longer and was accompanied by the use of the superior military might of the European powers to suppress the resistance by the Africans. A look at the map of Africa after partition will show how the continent of Africa was partitioned on paper in conference rooms in Europe. It's very interesting. No? Look at the facts. Look at all the facts. How many facts are coming out in this whole process in which a bigger country controls the other country? The other country heads are also equally after power. So the power seems to be a major factor. Let's see. Anyway, at the end, when you get all the facts will speak for themselves. There will be ideology, there will be power, there will be individuals, belief systems also. Slowly, you'll understand. We're all in this journey of understanding history. About 30% of all boundaries in Africa are in straight lines. That's why they are like that. Have you noticed? It will be easy. It will be easier to understand the conquest of Africa by European powers if we study it region by region. We must remember, however, that occupation did not take place in the order described here. Now the next will come. Next topics are coming. That will happen in the next video. Thank you.